Welcome back to my channel, and if you are visiting my space for the first time, you are also highly welcome. In this lecture, we would be looking at the flexor retinaculum. Let's try and use this image by the side to describe where this structure is located. This is the hand region, and specifically, this region that is exposed is the wrist region. In the anterior part of the wrist is where we have the flexor retinaculum, and this is what is harrowed at this point. This flexor retinaculum is seen to create the roof of the carpal tunnel. This is where we have the carpal tunnel here, highlighted in dotted yellow. We know that the carpal tunnel is a curvature that is created by the carpal bone. Right on with me in this lecture, we'll be describing the flexor retinaculum and also highlighting some other important details that you should know. The flexor retinaculum can also be referred to as the transverse carpal ligament or the anterior hernial ligament. So if we come across these names, we should also know that they represent or mean the flexor retinaculum. We already highlighted that this is a strong band that is seen to bridge the carpal tunnel. So using this image on this other side, this is the anterior region of the hand. This space that is exposed here in this image, we say that it is the wrist region. We say that anteriorly around the wrist is where we have the flexor retinaculum. And this is what is harrowed there at this point. We say that this is seen to help roof or bridge the carpal tunnel. And this is what is also highlighted here in dotted red. Let's try and further illustrate this. Let's say this is where we have the curvature created by the carpal bone. This is what we say is referred to as the carpal tunnel, and this is seen to be roofed or covered by the flexor retinaculum. And this is what is highlighted here. So you see this arrangement is what is exhibited here around this upper image. It is also important that we add that there is an extensor version of the flexor retinaculum, and this is what is referred to as the extensor retinaculum. Let's try and use this image to describe this. This is the hand region, and specifically, this is the posterior region of the hand. This region that is harrowed there at this point is the extensor retinaculum. This extensor retinaculum is also a strong band of fibrous sheet that is seen specifically around the posterior region of the wrist. Let's try and highlight the functions of the flexor retinaculum. And the first one we'll be describing here is the fact that it roofs the carpal tunnel. We already also highlighted this. We know that the carpal tunnel is seen to contain a number of structures, and this is where the flexor retinaculum is helping to protect this structure and also enhance their stability. It is also seen to create the attachment site or point for muscles. We try to use this lower image. This is where we have the flexor retinaculum arrowed in black. This structure is seen to create the insertion point for the palmaris longus. If we go back to our previous lecture on the muscles of the anterior compartment of the forearm, remember in that lecture we highlighted that the palmaris longus is one of the superficially placed muscles in the anterior compartment of the forearm. We say that a region of the tendon of the palmaris longus is inserted on the flexor retinaculum, while the remaining part of the tendon of the palmaris longus are seen to be directed downwards into the anterior region of the hand or the palm, where they are inserted on the palmar aponeurosis. So this is where you see that the flexor retinaculum is creating an insertion site or point for a part of tendon of the palmaris longus. It is also seen to create the site of origins for the tinea and also the hypotenea muscles. And these are the muscles that are located in the hand region. This is what is seen to be highlighted here also in blue. So if we try to use this image on this other side, this is where we have flexor retinaculum. And at this specific point that is harrowed in blue is where we have the origin site of the tinea muscle. The flexor retinaculum is also seen to help hold the tendons of the muscles that are located in the anterior compartment of the forearm, which of course are referred to as the flexor muscles. These muscles are seen to be collected together by the flexor retinaculum. And at this point, it is seen to help act as a pulling that help prevent both springing action of these tendons during wrist flexion. Don't forget that the muscles in the anterior compartment of the forearm We already highlighted that they are flexor muscles and they are sent to exert flexion on the wrist. And during this process, we have their tendons also collected or binded together by the flexor retinaculum. And this is helping to prevent them from scattering or moving apart during the process of flexion of the wrist. Let's use this slide to describe the medial insertion point and also the lateral insertion point of the flexor retinaculum. Don't forget that it runs horizontally across the wrist. So there is a specific point around the medial side where it is inserted upon, and also on the lateral side. If you try to use this image by this side, let's try and first put it in its correct anatomical position for easy understanding. This is the medial side of the hand, and this is the lateral side. So on the medial side, we have the flexor retinaculum tapered to the pisiform bone. This is where we have the pisiform bone harrowed in red. It is also seen to be tapered to the hook of hamate. This is where we also have the hook of hamate harrowed in blue. So you see that these two carpal bones are located around the medial side of the carpal region. Don't forget that the carpal bones are arranged in two rows. We have the proximal row and we have the distal row. In the proximal row, from lateral to medial, we have the scaphoid, and this is the scaphoid here, numbered 1. Then the second carpal bone that is seen around the proximal row is the lunate. And this is what is also numbered here at this point. The third carpal bone is the tracheatrium, and this is what is highlighted here in green. And this is followed with the fourth bone, and this is the pisiform. Then if you go more distally, we have the trapezium. This is the trapezium here on the lateral edge. Then this is followed with the trapezoid. Then we have the capitates that is highlighted here in yellow. Then finally on the medial edge, we have the hamate. But it is specifically the hook of the hamate that the flexor retinaculum is connected to. So you see that the pisiform and also the hamate are the most medially placed carpal bone from the proximal end down to the medial head. So you see that this is where the flexor retinaculum will be connected to around the medial side. And after this connection, they are seen to be directed laterally, where they are then inserted on the tubercle of the scaphoid, which of course is one of the proximal bone that is located around the lateral head, and also the crest of the trapezium. And this is what is also harrowed at this point, which is also one of the distal bones located around the lateral edge. So you see that on the lateral edge, we also have the most laterally placed carpal bones, which include the scaphoid proximally and also the trapezium distally. So you see that the flexor retinaculum will be extending to and fro these 2 points, running from the medial edge to the lateral edge. Now let's use this slide to describe the slits that the flexor retinaculum creates around its medial side and also its lateral side. And these slits are created to create a passageway for some structures. So on the medial side, it is seen to create a slit that runs superficially. And this slit is seen to be attached or connected to the pisiform bone. Let's try and use this structure to further illustrate this. This is where we have the carpal tunnel here created, and this is what is highlighted here in blue. Then we have the flexor retinaculum creating like a roof over it. Don't forget that the flexor retinaculum is seen to extend, connecting the pisiform and the hook of hamate on the medial side. Then on the lateral side, you see it connecting to the scaphoid and also the trapezium. And this is what is highlighted here in this image. So going back to the medial side, we have an extension or a slit created, and this is what is highlighted here at this point. This slit is seen to be superficially placed, and this is where it is positioned above the flexor retinaculum. And at this lower end, it is seen to be connected to the pisiform bone. Don't forget that this is where we have the pisiform. So you see this emergence, around this medial side, where we have the creation of the Guyon's canal. This is where we have the Guyon's canal here, harrowed at this point. This canal is created for the passage of the ulnar vessels and also the ulnar nerve. So this is where we have the ulnar artery that is highlighted in red. This is where we have the ulnar vein in blue, and this is where we have the ulnar nerve. And if you look deep, you will see that the floor of the Guyon's canal is formed by the flexor retinaculum. And this is what is highlighted here, dotted black. Then on the lateral side, we have another transformation also created as a result of the slip or extension that occur on the lateral side of the flexor retinaculum, but it is located deep to the flexor retinaculum. And this is what is highlighted here at this point. And this is why you see it positioned deep to the flexor retinaculum. And it is also seen to be connected or attached to a carpal bone. And it is specifically seen to be connecting to the medial lip of the groove of the trapezium. Don't forget that the trapezium is seen to have a groove that has a medial and a lateral lip, but it is specifically seen to be connected to the medial lip of the groove that is created of the trapezium. We'll be describing this in details when we get to this region of our lecture series. This is also seen to create a passageway, and this is the passageway here. This opening is seen to allow for the passage of the tendon of the flexor carpal radialis. Don't forget that the flexor carpal radialis is one of the superficially placed muscles in the anterior compartment of the forearm. Don't also forget that the flexor carpal radialis follows the radial alignment, and this is why it is so referred to as radialis. And we know that the radius is positioned around the lateral side. So we should expect that the passageway for the tendon of this muscle will also be seen on the lateral region. So you see that these transformations, both on the medial and also on the lateral side, are seen to be creating the passageway of a number of structures. And this is what we've highlighted here using this image. It is also important that we had that the structures that are seen to pass through these transformations are not taken as structures that are seen within the carpal tunnel. This is where we have the carpal tunnel here, where this arrow is pointing. Don't forget that the carpal tunnel is seen to contain 9 tendons and also 1 nerve. It is seen to contain 4 tendons from the flexor digitorum profundus, and this is what is highlighted here in green. And superficially to this tendon, we have the tendon of the flexor digitorum superficialis. And this is also 4 in number. On the lateral side, we have an additional 1 tendon, making it a total of 9 tendons. And this tendon is from the flexor pollicis longus. And this is what is highlighted here in white. Don't forget that the flexor pollicis longus is inserted on the thumb, and this is why it is so referred to as pollicis. So we should expect that in anatomical position, the flexor pollicis longus will be directed on the lateral side. And this is why you have the tendon of this muscle positioned within the carpal tunnel, specifically on the lateral side. It is also seen to contain the median nerve. So in total, we have 10 structures passing through the carpal tunnel. And these are the only structures that are seen within this space, while the other structures that are seen around it, of course, passing through the slips that emerge from the flexor retinaculum, are not taken as contents of the carpal tunnel. So let's drive through the relations of the flexor retinaculum. First, let's look at the structures that are located above it. And this is where we'll be highlighting the structures that are related to it around its anterior surface. Don't forget that in anatomical position, this is where we have the anterior surface. So at this edge, we have a number of structures related to the flexor retinaculum. And this includes the tendon of the palmaris longus. We already also highlighted this previously in the course of this lecture. We try to use this image. This is where we have the flexor retinaculum, arrowed in black, and this is where we have the tendon of the palmaris longus. Don't forget that the part of a tendon of the palmaris longus is inserted on the anterior surface of the flexor retinaculum. The remaining part or chunk of the tendon of the palmaris longus are directed into the anterior region of the hand or the palm, where they are finally seen to insert on the palmar aponeurosis. This was what we described in our previous lecture on the muscles of the anterior compartment of the forearm. If you've not checked up that lecture, please kindly go and do so. So at this point, you see that the tendon of the palmaris longus is related to the anterior surface of the flexor retinaculum. It is also seen to be related to the tinea and also the hypotenea muscles. These muscles are muscles in the hand region, and these muscles are seen to take their points of origins from the anterior surface of the flexor retinaculum. Then using this lower image, this is where we have the flexor retinaculum, and specifically at this point that is arrowed in blue is where we have the origin site of the tinea muscle. So you see that the flexor retinaculum, specifically the anterior surface, is creating a point of origin for the muscles of the hand. It is also seen to be related anteriorly to the palmaris cutaneous branches from the median and also the ulnar nerves. And finally, around the anterior surface, we have the ulnar vessels and also the ulnar nerve. Don't forget that we described previously that the ulnar vessels and the ulnar nerve are seen to pass through the Guyon's canal, which of course is a slit created around the medial side of the flexor retinaculum. We already described why this position around the medial side. Well, because it's a superficial slit, the ulnar vessels and nerve are seen to be related to the anterior surface of the flexor retinaculum while passing through the Guyon's canal. Let's look at the structures that are also related posteriorly to the flexor retinaculum. And this is where we'll be describing the structures that are positioned below it. Include 9 tendons from the flexor muscles in the anterior compartment of the forearm and also the median nerve. If you go back to this upper image, this is where we have the alignment created here below the flexor retinaculum. And within it, we say we have total of 10 structures. If we try to use this image to further illustrate this, this is where we have the carpal tunnel highlighted in blue and of course roofed by the flexor retinaculum. The flexor retinaculum in this lower arrangement is what is highlighted here in black. If you go deep to the flexor retinaculum, is where you have a number of structures. And this is where you have the 4 tendons of the flexor digitorum profundus that is highlighted here in white. You have the 4 tendons of the flexor digitorum superficialis. And this is what is highlighted here in red. Then if you go on the lateral side, you have just 1 tendon from the flexor pollicis longus. And we say that this is positioned on the lateral side. We already established the basis behind this placement. Then we have the median nerve that is highlighted here in yellow. So you see that all these structures will be related to the posterior surface of the flexor retinaculum. And superiorly, you have the palmar carpal ligament. We try to use this image by this other side. This is where we have the palmar carpal ligament positioned superiorly to the flexor retinaculum. It is not only seen to be positioned superiorly, it is also seen to be placed superficially to the flexor retinaculum. Then if you go more inferiorly, you have the palmar aponeurosis. We try to use this image down here. This is where we have the flexor retinaculum here, arrowed in black. And if you go more inferiorly to this structure, you have the palmar aponeurosis. The palmar aponeurosis is a triangular sheet that is seen on the palmar or the anterior surface of the hand. And this is what is arrowed in green. And the palmar aponeurosis is what we described in our previous lecture on the anterior muscles of the forearm, where we said that part of the tendon of the palmaris longus inserts upon. And this is when the other part of the tendon of the palmaris longus is already inserted on the anterior surface of the flexor retinaculum. Now let's look at clinical application. And what we'll be highlighting here is the fact that the flexor retinaculum can be incised to relieve pressure in carpal tunnel syndrome. Don't forget that the carpal tunnel syndrome is a compression of the median nerve within the carpal tunnel. And when this occurs, the need may arise for the flexor retinaculum to be slit open to relieve pressure as a result of this. Another clinical application is in the impact that the flexor retinaculum has against the bone stringing effects. Remember, we initially described that it prevents the bone stringing action, where it is seen to help hold together the tendon of the flexor muscles in the anterior compartment of the forearm. And this is where it helps to prevent them from moving apart during the flexion of the wrist. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you find this useful.